Welcome here to our first piece of the five-part series, Florida in Focus. You know that when I was down in the great state of Florida every single week and working down there on ESPN 1080, the team, I had a thing called Florida in Focus, and that has continued. Never get rid of it. Always keep it with me. Anything that's in the wheelhouse from the beginning comes right through. So here on Monday, February 22nd, I have the pleasure of having Bob Casullo here with me. This week is going to be filled with awesome people. Bob is here with us on Monday. On Tuesday, we'll have Jason Lucas. Wednesday, Mike Sofka. Thursday, Papa Joe. And on Friday, Dale Shackelford. Each day dedicated to our conversations with these awesome people that I'm very happy to have on the show. So with that being said, Florida in Focus is here. Wake Up Call has touched down. And Mr. Casullo, you start off my week. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know. Is that good or bad?
I mean, you know, people that have had, I mean, you and I have done a ton of shows together. We've spent a lot of time together over the past few years. And normally they're seeing your voice, or, you know, getting to hear your voice. Now they get to see your face. So what do you think about that? And I see that you trimmed the goatee, which is good.
That's what I mean about I don't know if it's good or bad.
But I'm happy to have you. I kind of expected you to have a cigar while you were doing this too.
Well, I'm inside the house. I'm inside the condo, and my wife doesn't let me smoke in the condo. So, and if I was going to go on the balcony, which I normally would do, but like I told you earlier, it's starting to pour out here. We're supposed to have rain for the next hour or so.
Well, you know, and you're down in Florida. You get to come back and forth from Central New York to Florida. And now that we have Florida in Focus and we're officially starting the week off with that, tell me about how life has been in retirement and how it's been for you to spend part of your year down in the Sunshine State.
Well, obviously it's very good. It's very relaxing down here in Fort Lauderdale. I can honestly tell you this, that during this COVID, the past year of all this COVID stuff, there's quite a difference between what's happening down here as to how people are treating it and dealing with it, as opposed to up in when we were up in Syracuse last summer and early fall. By the way, I just recently got my 2 shots in the last month, so I'm all hopefully COVID protected. But Florida is the governor down here has got a lot of fans. He's doing a tremendous job, in my opinion, and I'm very hard to please, but I'm not alone. And when I say this, the guy has done a great job, and he gets it. He understands that you have to open schools, you have to open businesses, people have to live their lives, and you still have to be careful. You can be cautious and careful and still carry on your life, okay? Whereas the guy that's running New York State, he's trying to run, Syracuse, New York, and Ithaca, New York, and Watertown, New York, like Manhattan and the Bronx and Brooklyn. It don't work. It's apples and oranges. Anyways, it's been normal down here. It's great. I mean, I play golf. You wear the mask when you're around people.
Yeah.
While you're golfing, you're fine with the people you're playing with. We go out to dinner. The restaurants are probably now they're still not maximum full, but they're probably 3/4 full now. Plus, the bonus down here is you got outdoor dining, so you got a lot of tables and chairs outdoors. And the beaches are open, and people adhere to the rules. Like if you go, to buy some, if you go to a bar across the street, you wear your mask. I mean, it's you don't have to stop living, is my point, like New York State is doing and most of the Northeast. So when you ask how I'm doing, I'm much happier being down here than I would be up there.
Yeah, and you get to see it, and I've gotten to see it too, the juxtaposition. I don't think you could get more different than New York and Florida right now and the way that things are being carried on. So, how have you taken that and kind of realizing that in our country, we have 50 states, but the states have rights. And, we kind of have almost functioned like 50 separate countries. And, it's been a very strange last year of dealing with the fact that, down in Florida, you can run your business. Up in, upstate New York, you got to kind of wait permission from somebody that's 4 hours away. How have you seen that juxtaposition and dealt with that, knowing that not only have you been in both places, but obviously, your son is up here in the community and things get affected by that. And obviously the football season did as well.
Well, again, I don't want to get into politics here because, every once in a while I like to throw a hand grenade out on Facebook and listen to people, the old saying, which I adhere to, and I'm sure people apply it to me. 'Tis better to be silent and thought a fool than to open one's mouth and remove all doubt. Yeah. So I don't want, without getting political, I'm telling you, it's really, it's a much better way of life down here. And I know, talking with people up north, not only my son, but the many, many friends we have up there and relatives, they're frustrated. They're frustrated. My brother's a businessman down in the Mohawk Valley. He's frustrated. He's sensitive to the requirements set forth by the government. Okay, but he's also sensitive to the needs of the people. You have to get out. You have to be out and about. And when you allude to 50 states with 50 different ways of doing things, that's the definition of anarchy. And they chased the president out of being president because the main reason is they didn't like him. And again, I'm not going to get into politics. Okay, what has changed? What has changed in the last 2 or 3 months, other than the price of gas going up, which doesn't make sense. And again, I don't want to get into politics. Just say this: it's a much better way of life down here than up there.
We look at the fact that, with football and you being, having coached for so long and, having family in coaching, to know that, there's been that start and stop. We had one of the guys, a great young kid here, 2022 defensive tackle and nose guard, Daniel Santiago, was from Utica Proctor in New York. He went over to Horizon in Arizona, played his season there when everything got shut down in New York. And not only did it help him to play, but he got an offer from Arizona, Yale, Army, Air Force, San Diego State, and it continues. We've seen that, and we've seen different states get to play and do their things, and other states have had to wait. What can you say, to that extent, having coached for so long, you care about kids, and, you coached at different levels and cared about, being able to play. Just your thoughts on that, that some kids in New Jersey are playing and 2 hours north in New York, they're not. Arizona and Florida are playing, and, and California isn't. And just, how you saw that as a coach, because I can imagine that if you were coaching at that time, it's probably very, as an understatement, frustrating, because there are haves and have-nots. And, obviously the kids that get to play get out to be recruited more, and the kids that don't have a tougher lick at it because there's no recent film out. So, COVID has obviously not only affected the present, but, potentially the future of these kids that have been in states where they have to sit and wait.
Well, you're asking a very broad general statement, and I'll try to give you, with both of my sons involved with high school sports and high school teaching, and many, many, many friends of mine that are involved in coaching, I have a problem with when people say, for the benefit of the kids, we're doing it for the kids.
Yeah. I
have a problem with that because, first of all, who are really the biggest losers from this past year? Kids. Kids have not had a chance to be kids. I don't care if you're talking about sports, if you're talking about band, if you're talking about theater, if you're talking about socializing. Kids have been hurt. And to listen to people or to see people say protecting the kids. If you wanted to protect the kids, when the vaccine came out, okay, why didn't you, in order to open the schools, mandate teachers as essential workers and give them shots so the first thing that would open would be the schools? I don't understand, but they're doing but they say they're protecting the kids. Well, you want to protect the kids? Inoculate the teachers, okay, so that you can open up the schools and the kids can get on with their life. For me, as a retired guy, I mean, selfishly, you want me to stay here? I'll stay here. You want me to wear a mask? I'll wear a mask. I really don't have anywhere to go, and I got all the time to get there. Okay, so I'm really not being affected by it.
Yeah.
Okay, but if I'm in high school, like the other thing now, I'm reading. You read on the internet. Well, this college, they had a big fraternity party. Well, what the hell do you think they're going to do? This school, these high school students all got together, and they were in a park, and they had a big field day on a weekend. Well, what do you think they're going to do? You know what I'm saying? You've taken away a whole generation, in my opinion. We're breeding a generation of, I don't want to say ignorance, but when I say it, I don't necessarily mean mental ignorance. I mean social ignorance. I mean the ability to grow up and be a kid, and you don't see colleges want to protect the students, but you don't see them cut the fees, do you? You say, hey, you sit home and you sit on your laptop and you take these courses, and we're still going to charge you $75,000 to come to this university. That's taking care of the kids. Yeah. I mean, are you thinking of the kids? You're not thinking of the kids. You're making your money. No matter what you do, you're going to make your money. I mean, you can go on and on and on, but I really think it's the generation of kids, and you could go up till 21, 22 years old. They've lost a year of their social, mental lives, in my opinion. And how are you going to get that back now? What are you going to do? Okay, you're going to say you're going to have in upstate New York, you're going to have March to April spring football. Okay, well, what about the education? They lost a year of education. Down here in South Florida, there was a huge article a couple weeks ago. In Palm Beach, Broward, and Davie County, they have over 75,000 students unaccounted for, which means they haven't found them. They obviously don't check in on the computer.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't go to school. You've lost a whole generation of kids. They've lost a year of their life. And again, I don't want to get into politics, okay? Because we can agree to disagree. But I still say the way of living down here, when you go through the South and you go up the East Coast corridor, the way of living in these states is a lot better than what's going on up in the Northeast.
And it is. I mean, and it's been difficult because I think the reality of it all is, you got to care about your neighbor, right? You wear the mask because you have to wear the mask. I know, when Ron DeSantis down there in Florida said, oh, we could do this or that, or you can choose. And Disney, places like Disney and Publix and said, you know what? Like, we're wearing the masks. We're going to do what we need to do. Like, we want to be smart about it. And, we've seen that the bubble works. We've seen the MLS. I mean, when Florida was supposed to be a cesspool of bad and the media is telling us that Florida is the worst place in the world to be, the MLS came down, played an entire season with little to no issue. The NBA came down there and played with little to no issue. And we saw these things just be able to come in and throughout. I mean, we saw the, NFL championship game between the Bucs and the Chiefs, and they were able to handle things. And the NFL really didn't have that many issues. Even when Tennessee got sick or not sick, but had positive COVID cases, Minnesota had played them and Minnesota showed nothing. So, we've, to look at the world of sports, just what you can say, speaking here with Bob Casullo in our first piece of our 5-part series of Florida in Focus with Wake Up Call on the Road. You can use the hashtags Wake Up Call everywhere, Wake Up Call OTR, and Wake Up Call on the Road. Bob, it's not being spread in the run of play. And you talk about like, well, we got to, they say it's all for the kids. It's all for the kids. I've spent almost a year saying it's not being spread this way. In in Major League Soccer, these guys were playing in August. It's 90 something degrees at 7:00 at night. They're sweating on each other. They're falling on each other. They're falling on the ball. They're hitting each other. And, basketball, same thing. They're out there sweating, playing, doing their thing. And basically, if you have proper testing on one side, you have proper testing on the other side, you bring those together. Whoever's, contact tracing, whoever is positive, you get them out, you quarantine them, do what you got to do. But if everybody here is healthy and everybody here is healthy, you can't spread a disease between people that don't have it. And so just what you could say about on the field and on the court of play, sports have really proven that you can do it. And I think where I get confused with governors and whatnot around the country is, why aren't you letting the kids play when the professionals and the colleges are playing and they're proving that it's not being spread during competition?
Well, politicians, you're talking about people that the terrible, tragic riot that happened at our nation's capital and the terrible and tragic riots that happened in the biggest cities in our country last summer and fall, okay? Do you hear any media discussion about mask wearing in those situations? When they show those videos, do they start saying, look, these 10,000 people, nobody has a mask yet. You go to church, you got to wear a mask. You got to sit in separate pews. You got to sit 6 feet apart. You can't go to school in a lot of places. I mean, we're upside down. We're upside down. I don't know how else to say it, and I did not know this. You're obviously up there. Just this morning, I was on Syracuse.com and I happened to see a photograph of a high school basketball game. And I have to ask you, are they wearing masks while they're playing basketball in high school? Are you kidding me? How do you breathe? I can tell you this. I mean, many, many years ago, before you were born, I played high school basketball. And let me tell you something. When you're running up and down the court, you need your mouth and you need your nose to be able to breathe in air. I looked at that picture and I said, this got to be a mistake. Yeah. You can't do this, but hey, obviously there's smarter people than you. I won't say you. Obviously there's smarter people than me that say, this is what we need. Well, if you're wearing a mask, isn't the other part of wearing a mask 6 foot social being apart? Well, you're playing basketball and you're wearing a mask and you're all over each other. I mean, it's comical. It really is. Now, with all that being said, is there a virus? Of course there's a virus. There is a virus. I'm not going to sit here and tell you there's not a virus. There's a virus. How in the world? Who is making these ridiculous decisions? That's all. And when you talk about, how do they? I watched the hockey last summer. Okay, I don't watch NBA basketball, but they survived. Hockey survived. Baseball, they found a way to survive. Okay, and now you're asking, why can't kids do it? Well, I don't have that answer. And quite honestly, nobody else in power does either. But apparently what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. So go figure.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, and with these masks, I mean, I thought about this too is, okay, so you're wearing a mask to cover your face, but I'm still hitting you. Like I'm sweating on you. I got my arm up against you. Like you see these pictures. I'm looking at them right now in the studio where there's a mask on and you're still playing normal basketball, right? You're still bumping bodies, you're still hitting arms, still hitting people in the face and whatnot. And a lot of what you see, because it's hard to, obviously run and keep it up. Because even when I'm sitting doing a show, I got to pull my mask up because I'm talking, and because you're moving your mask, it'll pull it down. You see a lot of these pictures, they tell you that your mask has to cover your nose and mouth. And a lot of, when people are playing all over the country, it comes down. And so their nose is exposed and their mouth is covered. And you're kind of asking, like, what does that do at this point? And, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, maybe it doesn't make sense, but let's follow the rules. Let's do what we got to do. Whenever I do any event, I wipe down my equipment. I do it publicly at the restaurant so everybody can see it. It takes me like 20 minutes to wipe every wire, every microphone.
Let me interrupt you right there, Dan. Do you put gas in your car?
Yeah.
Do you wipe down the handle on the thing, on the gas pump?
I usually wear a glove right now with everything going on.
Okay. I defy anyone to go sit at a gas station, okay? Sit at a gas station and watch, I don't know, half hour, an hour, people pumping gas in their cars and tell me how many people wipe down the gas pump, how many people wear a glove. And that's just one example. You know, we're upside down. You can't make all or none. You can't do it. Okay. Obviously they're not doing it. You can't enforce but who gets penalized? You know, most good people will adhere to the rules. Do I want to wear a mask? No, but I do when I go out in public. Why? I guess because we're supposed. I got both shots. I guess I'm COVID free. I can't give it or receive it, which is another question that they can't answer. You know, so it's just I just feel bad for people. I really do.
You know, and what would be, you know, you having coached at the collegiate and professional ranks for so long, what would be your advice to coaches out there that are stressed, dealing with the adversity? You know, I mean, kids come to coaches all over the world. You know, they come to the men and women that are their coaches because you're not only a coach, sometimes you're a mom, you're a dad, you're an uncle, you're an aunt, you're a brother or a sister. You're an extension of their family. You're a leader in their life. And for the first time in maybe a coach's life up to this point, they didn't have the answer. You know, when the kid comes up to you and says, Coach, when are we going to play? When's it going to be safe again? Should I play? Am I going to be okay? Is my mom going to be okay? Is my dad going to be okay? Like, coaches didn't have the answer. The coaches found out that you could play their sport here in Central and Upstate New York. They found out from their own players texting them. They found out on Twitter. From a tweet that was sent out by Ryan McMahon up here, who, you know, a lot of people think has done a great job, you know, but it's been, nobody has the answer. And as a former coach, what would be your advice to coaches who are supposed to have the answers for the kids, and they don't have them any better than the kids do anymore, which from a place of leadership has got to be frustrating.
Well, I could just tell you both my sons, they're living what you're talking about, you know, and they're very frustrated because kids, you know, they're still in communication with kids, you know, on the laptops, video like we're doing. They're still in communication with them, and the kids are saying, you know, they're looking for answers, but you can't just limit it to kids. We're all looking for answers. Everybody is, and I guess as a coach, probably. And I don't want to get myself into trouble here, but coaches are still dealing with this. They're dealing with the kids. You know what I'm saying? They're dealing with it. And they want to go back to work, and they're trying to get back to work. They're trying to conduct workouts. They're doing the best they can. Okay. You know, and then you talk about teachers. Are teachers doing all that they should? Well, probably with the resources they got, they're probably doing the best they can. But go back to my original statement, okay? If you really want to prioritize essential, no doubt, hospital workers, nursing home workers, caregivers, they're a number one. Why wouldn't teachers be a number two? You know what I'm saying? If you're that concerned about the kids, why put a 65-year-old and older, which fortunately I am, to get shots? Why don't you say we're going to do teachers? You know what I'm saying? We're going to do teachers so that we can get the youth of America performing again. But, you know, Dan, we could discuss this till the cows come home, and you could discuss this with 4,700 different people, and you're going to get 4,700 different points of view. You know what I'm saying? And I just say this: if you sit there and you do what we become trained circus animals, okay? Wear a mask, stay 6 feet apart, don't go to church, don't go to school, but you can riot. You can do that, okay? You know, you go to the gas station, you could go to Wegmans, you know, you could do all those things. Well, geez, how the hell does COVID not know to go to Wegmans? You know what I'm saying? I just, But if you wear your mask, you're 6 feet apart, you can go to Wegmans, but you can't go to school. It just, again, move on.
Yeah, and I get that and understand that, and your son's being in the field, going through that. What has been your word of advice to them beyond COVID and just things in general? What is the advice of a father who's been through the ranks of coaching? And I mean, obviously this is unique, extremely unique, but what do you tell your sons as words of advice, not just during COVID times, but in general?
I tell them in no uncertain terms, it's not your decision to make, okay? There's other people making the decision. Your job is to follow through on those decisions. If you don't agree with them, if you do agree with them, that's not your decision to make. Once the policies come out, okay, we're not allowed to have kids in school. Done. End of question, okay? Now, talk to them on the laptop. Talk to them on video calls. Guide them through. Yeah, hey, are you doing your schoolwork? Are you keeping up to date on your schoolwork? Are you socializing with your teammates? Are you socializing with your neighbors? On the video I'm talking about. You can't go out there and say, the hell with that. You go do what you want to do. That's the last thing you can do. And it doesn't have to be my sons. It could be anybody. I'd say, look, we all got to do it. So I got to wear a mask. You got to wear a mask. We all got to do it. We'll all get through this together. It's going to take time, but we're all going to get through this together. And let's just keep doing what the powers that be tell you to do. If you're not the chief, you're an Indian. That's my father always used to say that. And if you're an Indian, you listen to the chief and move on.
And I think, and kind of, I mean, and I agree with, what you're saying. Obviously, whether people want to do it or not, we have to do what we have to do to try and get back some type of normalcy, and hopefully a better normal than what we had before. If a lighthearted piece of this and kind of going off of it is at Wegmans in Central New York, there were some very weird things that weren't available to a lot of people: toilet paper, bread, stuff like that. But in Wegmans, in this community, Jif peanut butter and Pillsbury pull-apart chocolate chip cookies, weird stuff that people took. Was there anything at the grocery store where you were that you kind of just shook your head and said, why'd they take all the angel hair? Where the heck are the pickles I eat? Because there were certain things that for whatever reason here in Central New York and in upstate New York, they grabbed the toilet paper, they grabbed the bread, and then they grabbed the Pillsbury pull-apart cookies, and they grabbed the Jif peanut butter. And for the life of me, I can't figure it out.
Well, I'm going to answer two questions. First of all, can you explain to me the toilet paper philosophy?
No, I cannot. Unless they're eating the toilet paper, I can't explain it to you.
I bet I've asked 1,000 people, why is toilet paper so essential? Okay, but let's answer the question the opposite way. You're right. Toilet paper, paper towels. You said like Jiffy peanut butter and cookie dough and all that. You never ran out of meat, did you? No. Did you ever hear of meat running out? Why not? No. How come?
Yeah.
If I'm going to the grocery store and I'm stocking up on food, okay, the first thing I'm buying is meat. Then I'll get the bread and the milk and like that and the coffee, okay? But I'm going to buy meat. Yeah. Have you ever heard in all the last year a shortage of meat?
I knew that like at Aldi's, you had to get there Wednesday or Saturday first thing if you wanted chicken. But like there was always something on the shelf, like God forbid you had to eat sausage or something that week. But there was some type of something. There was scallops, there was fish somewhere that you could get.
Right. I that's my point, Yeah. But for down here, other than paper products and hand sanitizer and like Lysol spray, stuff like that, that stuff was all gone. I mean, empty shelves. You go down the canned foods aisle, it's packed. You go down the juice aisle, it's packed. And all of a sudden you come to the paper aisle and it's empty. And you're like, what the hell are they doing with all this toilet paper? Nobody's answered that question. You know?
And it's not even one of the main symptoms that you would have, your stomach be in such a way. That's not one of the things that people hear. So it's and the thing is, as much as they have kind of told people, like, toilet paper is not what you need, they still buy it to the point where there's people that were taking 40 or 50 rolls and trying to get out of the store with them. Like, people had like 5 packs of toilet paper. And I just, for the life of me, I couldn't tell you, unless they're eating it, unless they're building a house with it, I have no idea.
I'll give you one funnier than that. I have a friend of mine, and we were over to his house. This was before the summer, okay? And he took us to his spare bathroom. And in his spare bathroom shower, he must have had 1,000 rolls of toilet paper stacked up in his shower. And I said, how do you take a shower here? He goes, we use the other bathroom. I says, wait a minute, let me get this straight. You filled your shower with toilet paper. Yeah, when I say 1,000 rolls, I'm probably being conservative. Do you know how many rolls of toilet paper it takes to fill from floor to ceiling in your shower with rolls of toilet paper? You couldn't have got another roll of toilet paper in there. I said, holy cow. And I don't want to tell you what I actually said because this is supposed to be a family show. But if you go to the bathroom that much, you ain't got much left inside of you, right?
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing is, like, there were people that were buying toilet paper and then selling it on eBay, and that's, think about that. Now, people have sold literally like put their soul on eBay and somebody's bought it. I don't know how that works, but people were selling toilet paper on eBay.
Yeah. Well, again,
that's crazy.
I don't want to get into this country business and everything, but I'll tell you, you want to do something, tell your listeners to do this. If you haven't heard of George Carlin, okay, if you don't know who George Carlin is, please go to YouTube and punch up George Carlin and punch in keywords like government, gas rationing, just capitalism, rich people, church. George Carlin was a brilliant comedian. He was way ahead of his time. And if you go into YouTube and you plug in George Carlin, and like I said, plug in a keyword.
Yeah.
And he's way ahead of his time. And one of his basic premises was, if you think that the government that we all supposedly elected, no matter who they are, no matter what Republican, Democrat Party, okay, if you think their role is to work for us, listen to his comment. It's expletive deleted comment. He's basically saying you're a fool. I really believe the last year we have lived through George Carlin's way of saying things.
Yeah, I think Robin Williams would have a lot to say because he has. I know Lewis Black, who is alive.
Lewis Black is another one. You're exactly right. But you know something about Lewis Black? Do you hear from him anymore?
He some stuff on YouTube, but not a ton right now.
Yeah. Do you think he's been bought and sold?
I really hope.
I'm just asking.
I really hope not, because he's always criticized both sides. Yep. He's always gone after everybody.
Lewis Black. I thought he was the next George Carlin, and all of a sudden he's dropped off the face of the earth. I think he's a voiceover on some animated TV commercial. So I don't know. Maybe he got the warning.
Yeah, I hope not, because he was so. I've said this for years. I've told people, I said, I learned more about politics and government by watching Lewis Black's stand-up specials than I get from watching any channel that is news, because he goes after everybody. He calls out anything. If something's wrong or it doesn't make sense, he calls it out. Jon Stewart, same, like Jon Stewart would go after stuff and say, why did this happen? Why did that happen? But Lewis Black has been so real. And one of the good movies to watch is a movie called Accepted, where they create a fake college. And I love how at one of the points he goes, this is not your orientation. This is your disorientation.
Yeah.
And he brings you like so much reality to it. And yeah, I mean, I really do think that sometimes, as crazy as this might sound, listening to a comedian might be the only truth you're going to get sometimes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, they're telling you the truth, like you're saying, and they're making you laugh until you go home and you sit down and you go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be laughing at that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was George Carlin. I mean, Louis Black was nothing more than today's George Carlin. And both of them are on the same page and they do things right in that. But anyways, that's the humor for the day.
Yeah. So to stay down in the Sunshine State, we're here with Bob Casullo in our Florida in Focus series. So happy to start off my time in Florida with the hashtag Wake Up Call OTR, Wake Up Call on the road, and Wake Up Call everywhere. Florida, the second home of the show. Of course, Central and Upstate New York, my first home. And so very proud and love being in Florida. So to stay in the state of Florida, Tampa did something insane. They went from zero to hero, essentially, had a losing record, had a quarterback in Jameis Winston that was throwing as many touchdowns as he was throwing to the other team. And Tom Brady comes in at the ripe age of 43, closer to 44 when the playoffs are starting. They're a 5 seed, and everything seems to, per always, work out for Tom Brady. The first team to ever host a championship game. They weren't even, and they weren't even the top seed. They were considered the underdog, but no team in the history of the NFL, 32 franchises in all the years and 55 championship games up into this point, the other 54 up into this 55th one, nobody has had a home championship game. And so they get to become the first team to host, the first team to win when they did host. And Tom Brady has his 7th ring, 10th time in a championship game. What are your thoughts on the beautiful, wonderful city by the bay, Tampa, and what just happened historically in Florida?
Well, you know, I'm sure you're aware, I lived there for 5 years. I coached for the Bucs, and then we ended up staying there, living there before we moved down to Fort Lauderdale. But last year was Tampa Bay's year. I mean, you know, the Rays went to the World Series. The Lightning won the hockey. The Bucs won the football. I'm sure if they had a basketball team, that probably would have been their year too, you know. Yeah. But you know, it's great for them. What they did was they built a program, a team that lacked one piece to the puzzle, and you already mentioned it, Jameis Winston, who, you know, like you said, threw more interceptions than he did touchdown passes. And they knew that if we have all the pieces to the puzzle. They're the opposite of the Jets. See, in my opinion, the Jets have the quarterback, and they don't have the pieces to the puzzle. The Bucs had the pieces to the puzzle, and they didn't have the quarterback for their needs. And I'm not saying Jameis Winston is not a good quarterback. Yeah. He wasn't the quarterback for the product to put on the field with the Bucs. So they went out and got Tom Brady. They sold their soul to the devil. They did it. He brings in Gronkowski, who was another good piece to the puzzle. They really didn't need Gronkowski, but he was a nice addition to make Tom Brady happy to take him. But they had the defensive pieces. They had the offensive pieces. All they needed was the one masterpiece, the quarterback. And that's what they did. And like I said, the Jets right now, they're looking for ways to figure out to get up to draft a quarterback. Well, you dumbasses, you got the quarterback. Go get the rest of the team. I mean, look at the Bucs. I mean, look at them. That's all you got to do. Surround your quarterback with the right. Why did Tom Brady leave New England? He left New England for one reason. He didn't have the supporting cast that he did when they were winning all those Super Bowls. He was starting to get hit. He was starting to get knocked down. He was getting beat up, and he wants to play football till he's 45, 46 years old, and he knew staying there, their time was over. They were done. Okay, the expiration date for the Patriots was expired, so he had to get out of there.
Yeah, you know, and you bring up a good point. Like I said, arguably with him having 6 rings, when he came to the Bucs, he had the best receiving core he's ever had. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, OJ Howard, add in Gronk. You got a defense that's got Golston on it. You got Ndamukong Suh. You have Devin White and so on and so forth, Winfield. And so there's a lot to be said about what that team already had. They just, like you said, they needed another piece, and now they got it. And here's the interesting thing. I've covered the Jaguars on site, on location for the better part of the last 11 years. I've covered the team forever and a day. I've been a fan since they came in 95. Fred Taylor fan from day zero. And we see that Jadon Mickens, who's a kick returner for Tampa, Leonard Fournette, who's a running back for Tampa, and Blaine Gabbert, the backup quarterback for Tampa, all of these guys get rings after being former Jaguars. Leonard Fournette and Jadon Mickens were just Jaguars. They were still hot in the seat in the locker room Jaguars, two guys I interviewed in that locker room in Duval County. And so, what can you say to that? That, here's Jacksonville, 1-15, worst team in the nation this past season. And Jadon and Leonard Fournette, they move on, they get rings. And then Blaine Gabbert, through kind of going through a couple channels, he ends up getting a ring as well. Your thoughts on three former Jaguars doing it, including a guy like Jadon who slept in his car when he was on the practice squad in Jacksonville, and a former top 4 pick in Leonard Fournette who just didn't seem to fit there?
Well, the answer to that is very simple. All of those guys individually aren't good enough to take a team to the Super Bowl. But all of those guys collectively, okay, they were perfect pieces to fit in to a team, keyword, concept. You have to have a team. You take Tom Brady and put him in New England, and he saw it. Hey, I've lost all these guys. I'm going to lose more guys. The offensive linemen are depleted. Okay, he's always a part of a great system. I coach with Nick Saban, and it's not hard to understand Coach Saban. He calls it the process. We used to call it the program. He calls it the process. He has a process, and every year what he does is, when the process for that year is over, he looks at it and he fills in the pieces to the puzzle / process that he wants moving forward. And that's what it is, And you look at, I don't know if Jacksonville, and again, I'm just a guy, but what is their process? How many coaches have they, and I'm not asking, I'm just throwing this out there. How many coaches have they had? How many players have gone through Jacksonville's program in the last 10, 12, 15 years? Where are they now? Well, look at Ryan Tannehill when he was down here in Miami. I said all along, there's nothing wrong with Ryan Tannehill. The coach really didn't help him, but the team, the office, the front office didn't help him. They didn't surround him with people. He goes to Tennessee, and he was the Tom Brady at Tennessee that Tom Brady was to Tampa Bay. Tennessee has a team. Since they got Ryan Tannehill, they've been to playoffs both years. Now, their next step, of course, is to win the Super Bowl. Now, you look at, when the Colts, when they took Peyton Manning, they had Peyton Manning. And then Denver had a great team. They had no quarterback. Who'd they take? Peyton Manning. People forget. And what'd they do? They won the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So what comes first, the chicken or the egg? If you got a team and you need the key ingredient, for gosh sakes, go get it. And if you got that key ingredient, then for gosh sakes, surround them with the right people. And I mean, it sounds like a simple process, but it's easy, it's easy.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing, you look at what they need and what has to go on. And, like you talked about some of these teams here, what I don't think gets enough credit, who I don't think gets enough credit with Brady's last 3 Super Bowls, at least, is that in New England, the last 2, look at the defense. Tampa, look at their defense now.
It's always defense. It's always defense. Right. The two things that you got to have, and I've coached in 2 Super Bowls, and you could go look up the 2 Super Bowls, 37 and Super Bowl 40. There was 3 teams in those Super Bowls: the Oakland Raiders, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was 4 teams in those 2 Super Bowls. You go back and look up, where those 4 teams were in rushing, offensive rushing, okay, and where those 4 teams were in defense.
Yeah.
That's why you go to the Super Bowl. Those are the 2 main reasons, other than having the quarterback. But when Tampa Bay beat us in the Super Bowl, they had a run-of-the-mill, 1-year guy, Brad Johnson. That was the only year he ever did anything, and all he had to do was not screw it up. Their defense, 7 of their 11 defensive players that year were on the Pro Bowl. I think 4 of them are in the Hall of Fame. John Lynch just being the most recent one. But when you look at these teams, okay, defense wins championships. And don't ever forget that. Very rarely do you see a 49-47 Super Bowl. Very rarely. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But you do see 31-9. Do you realize Kansas City, I'm sure you do, Kansas City didn't score a touchdown. Kansas City, the most prolific offense in the NFL this year, kicked 3 field goals.
Yeah.
Come on. There's your answer, you know?
Well, you know, and you seeing Tampa win the championship this year and then go back to, you know, like you said, coaching in a couple different Super Bowl games and see Tampa on the other side. I mean, you were coaching against Tampa all those years ago. Now you see them do it again. What can you say about, you know, the surrealness to you that you were coaching in the last time that they went? And obviously that was the only one that they had won up to this point. And then seeing this one as a spectator on the other side of it, just what that's like for your history and what you remember about that game.
Well, my memory of Super Bowl 37 being on the losing side, obviously, you know, we were happy and glad to be there, but we were very disappointed in the outcome. But let me tell you something. That defense, when you were watching, I'll give you a better example. When I was coaching with Tampa Bay, okay, I think it was my first year. I think it was 2007. We went to the playoffs, and our first game, wild card game, was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the New York Giants. And I remember we were watching film all week, and we went to one staff meeting, and we were sitting there. Of course, John Gruden was the head coach, and John Gruden looked at all of us, and he said, "Does anybody ask this question, or is it just me? How the hell are the Giants wild card team? Why aren't they the number 1 seed?" You watch them on film and you go, how the hell did they lose? They were 9-7 and won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They ran those 4 games off, boom, 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 and they won the Super Bowl. Well, they made a lot of mistakes. They had some injuries. They lost some close games, and they eked into the playoffs. And then once they were in the playoffs, the whole thing came together. So you know, it's defense, of course, but it's everybody pulling, you know, rowing in the right direction, pulling the rope in the same direction. All those little cliches is the right thing. In Tampa Bay, they put it all together, and they added Tom Brady, which was that big candle on top of the cake, and look what it got him, you know?
Here with Bob Casullo in our Florida in Focus special series here on Monday, February 22nd. Bob, that Raiders team that you had in Oakland, Shane Leckler, Sebastian Janikowski, Reagan Upshaw, to Bill Romanowski, Charles Woodson, Rod Woodson. Oh, yeah, and a guy called Jerry Rice. What was
Tim
it
Brown,
like?
Tim Brown. Don't forget Tim Brown. He was valuable. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at that, and Tyrone Wheatley, who's out there coaching and doing his thing right now. And I remember the Zach Crockett's and the Charlie Garners as well, and Rich Gannon. But, you know, just what you can say about being a part of that team at that time. And not only that, but Jerry Rice, I mean, to some people, Jerry was the best, Tim was the best, this guy's 1, this guy's 2 or 3 or whatever it may be. You had them both there in a locker room. That Oakland Raiders team was something to marvel at and something to talk about, be it special teams, defense, or offense. What was it like for you to be in a place that so few people in the world will ever be, which is in a room with that type of talent and that type of history, and to what some people regard as the greatest wide receiver of all time, and a guy who's not far behind him?
Well, first of all, you're making me emotional here because I haven't thought about that in a long time. But when you bring the topic up, I mean, I was very blessed to be there at the right time in the right place, you know, and I would never be arrogant enough to say it was because of me they won all those games. And I certainly wouldn't say that it was because of me they lost some games. But I think I was a valuable addition at the time. Their special teams were very, very average. And when John Gruden hired me, his saying to me was, we're going to do everything we can to make sure you have the right players to make the special teams better. And lo and behold, the first draft, we take Sebastian Janikowski in the first round and Shane Leckler in the fifth round, and our special teams took off. The one thing that people don't realize from that year, us and the Atlanta Falcons were tied for the most blocked kicks that year. We caused 6 block kicks, and the Atlanta Falcons had 6. They caused 6 block kicks. So we were that piece of the puzzle that John knew he had to fix, which makes him a great coach. He realized, hey, we got to fix this, and we went out and did it. And you know, being in the right place at the right time, but also having a I guess the ability to contribute. You know, in my case, special teams helped get the Oakland Raiders over the hump. And working with those guys, I'm going to tell you something. When I watch my son's coach and I watch high school games, and then on Saturdays when I watch college games sitting in my room all by myself, and I say, my God, I wish you people had the opportunity to play with these guys because they were consummate professionals. They practiced on Wednesday and Thursday the exact same way they played on Sunday. You know, Charles Woodson now is in the Hall of Fame this year, another one added. You know, these guys, our practices were a pleasure, and I used to watch them because we did special teams first, and then I watched the practice, and I helped out where I was needed. But you watch these guys practice, and you go, every high school kid, every college kid in America should be here to see. This is Jerry Rice. This is Tim Brown. This is Charles Woodson. This is Rich Gannon. All the guys you named, Greg Beekert, our middle linebacker, they practiced on Wednesday and Thursday so that when Sunday came, they just let it go. It was the same thing. You know, I mean, I could talk about that 4 years forever. But thanks for bringing it up. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, thank you for being there. And, you know, the other Super Bowl you got to be at that you mentioned, obviously, the Steelers and the Seahawks when you were there as special teams coordinator.
And everything I just said about the Oakland Raiders, you can apply to the Seattle Seahawks with Matt Hasselbeck, Sean Alexander. Our defense had a little more no-names. Okay, we were a no-name defense. But what we were was what Mike Holmgren and John Marshall, the defensive coordinator, what they did was they went out and got players. Okay. It would be like recruiting in college. Okay. You don't have a lot of 5-star players, but you got 3- and 4-star guys that play like 5-star guys. And that's what our defense was at Seattle. And our offense was dynamic. And our special teams, we had a great kicker, we had a rookie punter, and we went all the way to the final game, you know? So it's the process. It's you know, like Coach Saban says, it's the process.
Yeah, you know, and you know, you look at this and I mean, that Seattle-Pittsburgh game, I remember going back because there were some calls that you know what I mean? And years later, you know, there's information coming out from, you know, an official apologizing. Again, you're part of a big game with big name guys. And there was that. And I remember I didn't have a dog in the race. And I remember watching this going, that was a touchdown in the back of the end zone. Right. That wasn't a touchdown in the front of the end zone. Right. And that would have changed the entire game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, and I don't want to go into the particulars, but you're right about the officials. There was a point in time a little later down the road where there was some geez, can you forgive us moments, But,
yeah,
what people don't understand is, that's $50,000 difference between the winner and the loser.
yeah.
Player and coach, you go back to the Tuck rule, the snowball game with Oakland and New England, that was a $50,000 per person call, and anyways, it was, hey, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, maybe what could have been.
I remember exactly where I was standing when I watched the game. I was at my buddy Brandon Smith's house out in Pennsylvania, and I had actually fallen asleep, and I woke up and I'm watching this game. I fell asleep. I think I woke up in like the second quarter, and I'm watching the game and I'm going, okay, so this doesn't, and I remember being so mad, and it had nothing to do with my teams. Like I grew up with Jacksonville and Dallas. Like I didn't have a dog in this race, but I was pissed. And, I can only imagine what you felt, but it's like, what is it like to coach when there are three teams on the field? The team you're playing, the team you are, and the officials.
Well, you're not allowed to say that, but
I can.
I've always said this, when they talk about gambling in sports, they're saying, we'll be sitting around the pool and the guys will be saying, the players threw that game. No, the players don't throw any game. If you're ever going to throw a game, the only way you can influence a spread, a game, a win, or a loss is through officiating. And I'm not saying that the officials do that, but what I am saying is that's the only way you're going to do it. Because players, let me tell you something, they play. Coaches, they coach, and officials, they're going to make mistakes. I would take replay out of the game. You know why I would take replay out of the game? Because 80% of the calls are not reversed. What does that tell you about the quality of officiating? It's pretty damn good. And over the course of a season-long NFL season, okay, the calls are going to even out. You're going to have a bad call here. They're going to have a bad call there. You're going to have then we got that call here, and down the road, somebody's going to have they got that call there. So you don't need replay. Replay's only for one reason. It has nothing to do with the game. It has to do with betting. You know what I'm saying? But the officials are good. They're pretty good at what they do. And I'm not one to puff them up. But when you watch like the last several years, I've been retired and I watch these very closely. They're pretty damn good now, especially in the NFL. If you're going to turn over a call and you've got a slow-mo 6 cameras to go frame by frame, and you still go 3-3, that was a catch, that wasn't a catch. Well, you got problems. Make the call and move on, because somewhere down the road, that call's going to go with you. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyways, you got me fired up now. And I got to go here pretty soon, Dan.
I know you do. And so I want to get into this really quick toward the end here. Nick Saban, you got to work with him. Some regard him as the greatest coach ever to touch college football. Thoughts and experience of working with Nick Saban?
Well, I was very fortunate to work with a lot of great head coaches. Dick MacPherson, George O'Leary, and obviously in the pros, John Gruden, Herm Edwards, Mike Holmgren, who I loved. Nick Saban is a unique individual. And let me tell you something. If there's any doubt, if you have any questions as to why Alabama is as good as they are, just look at Nick Saban. Reggie Jackson, what did he say that time? He stirred the drink. Well, Nick Saban, he stirs the drink. He creates the process. He follows the process. Now, let me say this to you, and this is like, people want to know why I like President Trump. In order for you to get along with Nick Saban, you best have thick skin, because he's not going to put his arm around you, say, hey, Bob, not for nothing else, but your punt team screwed up. He's not going to quite say it like that, and guess what? He's going to say it to you in a way that I'm going to make damn sure that punt team don't screw up again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, I may not like it at the moment, and I may be pissed off at the moment because of how he's talking to me, but in the long run, okay, we ain't going to make a mistake like that again. You see? And the other man was Al Davis. I mean, you don't have enough time. Nobody has enough time for me to sit here and talk to you about Al Davis, what he meant to me, okay, what he meant to the Oakland Raiders, and really what he meant to pro football. Watch the 30 for 30 on ESPN, Al Davis versus Pete Rozelle, and you'll get a taste of Al Davis, okay? But if there's one singular individual higher than Nick Saban or anybody else, it's Al Davis. Trust me on that.
And coming from Bob Casullo, and Bob, last piece here, you mentioned it, George O'Leary, Dick MacPherson. There's some fantastic people that have come through. Randy Edsel and I just spent an extensive time together. Steve Adazio, who I think is awesome. There's so many great coaches have come through and have been a part of that tree. Paul Pasqualoni, a lot of great there. Carl Sanfilippo doing his thing in Beeville, having been over at Syracuse. There's something to be said about the people that have come through and just what it used to feel like, and just what you could say about being a part of that history. And Frank Maloney, who got a lot of credit from Randy Edsel, and he goes, this guy never gets talked about, never gets credit. So, what can you say about being a part of that world of Syracuse that included the O'Learys and the MacPhersons and the Edsels and the Adazios and so on and so forth?
Well, first of all, I can feel Frank Maloney's feeling of disrespect. I can feel that. Without going into detail or going any further, I'm not going to do that, because during Dick MacPherson, the 10 years I was there at Syracuse what a tremendous, tremendous learning experience. What a tremendous, it's funny. I just got a text before we came on the air from David Holmes down here. I don't know if you remember David Holmes. He just texted me, and they're going to have a golf outing in memory of Marcus Paul this summer up in Syracuse. And the relationships between the players and the coaches and the coaches, and even the coach, players, and Jake Krauthamel, the athletic director, in those days it was a special thing, and I'm not going to get into how Syracuse is now, because hopefully they'll turn it around and get back in the picture. But in those days, man, we didn't care who we played. It was, like they say, Yogi said, you can look it up. Go back there from 85 to 94 or 95 and look at that 10-year schedule, and you'll see Oklahoma, Texas, Michigan State, Miami, Florida State, Florida, Ohio State, Colorado. Go look at them. Mike Holmgren once came in my office, and we were just sitting down having a cup of coffee, and he says, what the hell's wrong with Syracuse? How come they can never win? I said, what are you talking about? So I reached over and I started punching up YouTube games. He had no idea.
Yeah. He
had no idea. I said, Mike, this is Texas. I showed him the Texas games. I showed him the Miami games, and I said, Mike, this is what it used to be. So,
go ahead.
And you learn at every stop. George O'Leary at Georgia Tech. We took a 1-10 program. 4 years later, we were 10-2 co-champs of the ACC. Beat Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl. I mean, Nick Saban, Michigan State, co-champs of the Big Ten. We go to the Citrus Bowl. We beat Steve Spurrier in Florida. They were number 4 in the country. On and on and on and on and on. So I had the pleasure of working with a lot of good guys.
Yeah, coming from Bob Casullo, and I have the pleasure of getting to share the airwaves with you, and I got to start off Florida in Focus in my series down in the great state of Florida with you today. Bob, as always, I appreciate you. I thank you for everything, and it's always good to talk with you, and I can't thank you enough for connecting with me when you did a few years back.
Stay warm.